we don't know how to date. We don't know how to properly date. I just don't believe that women specifically, black women specifically, I don't believe we know how to properly date because that's not something we're taught. More times after than not, we're taught to stay away from men. We're taught to prioritize everything and everybody else. Like growing up, you'll have a black girl who will have a baby in her hand before she's even really taught a skill of how to learn basic, house skills. And it even down to the baby dolls. We practice parenting far more sooner than we practice interrelations.
Shit, in 2023, these women can't cook, let alone vet up for a man. There's some bullshit out here now for some of these dudes. I feel for them. I feel for people like my son who has to pick through these crazy ass efforts. He deserves better. But thank God he got a father in his life like me that's gonna teach him. And we're gonna figure this shit out.
All right. I think the one thing that's definitely missing, what's up to the panel? Thanks for having me, JR. I think the thing that's missing is that there is not a connection to Christ personally. I think everybody are giving very superficial type of answers when in fact marriage was designed and created by Almighty God. And so if you are out of alignment with who created marriage, then you're already set for failure. Right. So individuals are, I think it was Dr. Julio. I agree with that statement for sure. Men and women oftentimes are dating for the purpose of having sex, not to have a marriage. And so when you go into a relationship already thinking the negative of things, then it's going to be doomed in the beginning. So I would definitely challenge people to see what marriage is from the person, the being that created it, and then look at it from that particular perspective. And then from there, as far as vetting is concerned, are you vetting to have a relationship, or are you vetting to date, or are you vetting to be married? Like all of those are different. And so if you're vetting to be married, then you need to be in a position of being ready to be married. Right. And so then if there's somebody that is not wanting to be married, then you need to leave them alone. And so I'll just say right there on that one.
That's what I was going to say.
What would you go ahead, Precious. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You have a question for him. I don't have a question.
Yeah, I was just going to ask this to the panel, but specifically Humble Dad. What would you say today? What is the foundation of the Black community overall? What is the foundation?
What's the foundation?
If you met someone for the first time who has never experienced Black culture and they asked you specifically, what is the foundation of your community?
Who's asking? Because I don't really want to put us in a negative light. Like if I'm talking to a Black person that's just coming, then I'm gonna say something probably totally different than if I'm talking to somebody.
Let's say it's that. What would you say? What would be your response?
I would say the culture is definitely self-absorbed. Everybody's concerned about themselves most oftentimes, and so if it doesn't suit me, then I got to leave it alone. But at the same time, there are things that are detrimental to us, but we're okay with it as long as it affects us in a way that we want to be affected. So I give you a case in point. So I mean, most people know that sex outside of marriage is not good, but because it feels good to the flesh, then I'm gonna override what it is that I know to be right to do. Right. So that's a selfishness. Right. I'm including myself in the diagnosis that I'm saying. And then not only that, okay, so music is very influential. Everybody knows that, right? Because you'll say something like, man, this DJ is whack, right? Why did you say the DJ is whack? Because the music that he or she is playing is not moving you in a way that wants you to be there, right? And so that's another part of being selfish. Even though they know that music affects them, they're not stopping from listening to the trash that's out there, right? These people continue to make music or movies or whatever the case may be. So overall, I would say selfishness. But that's the context in which I would say it, though.
I do have a question, and this is just kind of like to the panel. If marriage is not the end goal, then what is? Especially when you're doing all the other sectors of a relationship that entail marriage, like things.
See, that's the problem.
That's the problem with relationships. There's no goal. There's no plan. There's no, what are we doing? I know a lot of people that are just together, living together. And I'm like, okay, so y'all gonna get married, and there is no real plan. There's the momentary, they're taking care of me for now, or we're just doing this for now. And I couldn't live like that. I couldn't live, in a relationship where there is no end goal. I think a lot of people with this vetting stage, um, they get with people to heal parts of them that only Jesus can heal. I always say it on my channel all the time. Only Jesus saves. I can't save you. I can't save you. I can't do anything to heal you from not cutting you. I can't do anything to, I can help you, but you already have to already be on that road to recovery. You have to, have already put that initiative into work, into play. And I think a lot of people get with people to heal parts of them that they don't want to take the time to heal themselves and vet themselves, knowing that they're hurt by that. They get triggered by this. And so instead of healing themselves, they go into the next relationship and they getting hurt and triggered by the same things. They having sex and they're layering, they're layering their triggers instead of healing it and being in control of their emotions.
Yeah, but that right there, Paris, what you said is the issue too. You said, if marriage is the end goal, and marriage is not the end goal, it's only the beginning. That right there is the beginning, which ushers a new chapter and a new journey. You know what I'm saying? If we're viewing it as the end goal, then it's already ended before it has even begun. And sort of, I think it becomes a negative connotation to think, okay, like we're here, we're just at the altar. We said I do. All right, we just check, right? As opposed to thinking about it, okay, this is going to be the beginning of a beautiful life. You know what I'm saying? We have so many things ahead of us, right? And I think that looking at it from that perspective, like this is the end goal, it feels more of a checkbox rather than a lived experience with someone else.
Well, that goes back into what we are taught to prioritize. I love what Humble Dad said, is that where when you look at marriage, what are you looking for? But the problem with what he's saying is, and it's not a problem for me because I see the world the way he does from that perspective. You mentioned the word or the name Christ, and people are instantaneously turned off, and they're instantaneously they're pushed away from it, like like the Pharisees. The problem is people don't want, especially in our community, we have this real hatred of the authentic truth. We run around here calling each other kings and queens. I'm sorry, where in the hell do you see a king without a kingdom, without a castle? Where do you see that? We are the most narcissistic, and I'm gonna say it. We operate with the high degree of narcissism in the Black community. You said it much more nicer than I did, Humble Dad, when you said we're self-absorbed. Bullshit. We are flat out narcissists, and narcissist with nothing to show for it in mass. Right? We still rank. If you look at the incomes, for example, of Indian American households, $100,000. White American households between $70,000 to $60,000 I'm talking about median income. We sit at the lowest economic level because we're dominated by single parent households, but run around here talking about we kings and queens. Kings and queens of what as a culture? I'm not saying we can't do better, but if we're gonna really want to grow, somebody got to be willing to snatch this band-aid off and tell the truth, and we got to stop putting sugar on the shit, because it's not going to help us. You do not solve any problem at the same level of thinking that you are at when the problem arose. If you ain't willing to grow in here, men first, women following afterwards, we're going to stay in the same rut we've been in for the past, as Malcolm X say, past 244 years. We live in a culture where we got to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, you know what, it's our fault. We got to accept the charges. This ain't the era of blame somebody else no more. Ain't none of us picked no cotton. Ain't none of us done anything that our ancestors really had to go through. Now we live in the age of the internet. There is no way, no reason, no rhyme, no nothing why we can't get the bag and get our community on track as a group of men first, women second. I refuse to live in that mindset of mediocrity. I cannot do that.
The internet, the plantation for some of these people. I'm telling you, it's that's where they picking it.
That's a fact.